Ma'am, could you state your name for the record, please?
Sybrina Fulton.
And could you spell your first name and last name?
My first name is Sybrina. The last name is Fulton, Fulton.
Are you married, ma'am?
I'm divorced.
And do you have any children?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell us who they are and their names?
My youngest son is Trayvon Benjamin Martin. He's in heaven. And my oldest son is Javaris Lamar Fulton.
Do you live in Miami, ma'am?
Yes, I do.
And have you lived in Miami your entire life?
Yes, I have.
And who do you live in Miami with?
My son Javaris Fulton and my brother Ronald Fulton.
Okay. Was Trayvon Benjamin Martin your son?
Yes, he was.
And was his date of birth February the 5th of 1995?
Yes, it is.
Are you working at this time, ma'am?
I am employed. I'm on leave right now.
Okay. Where are you currently employed, or who are you currently employed with where you're on leave?
I actually work for Miami-Dade County Public Housing and Community Development.
Okay. How long have you been working there, ma'am?
I've been with the county for 24 years. I've been with the housing agency for about 10 years.
And prior to going to the housing agency, what did you do?
I did code enforcement for 11 years.
And can you briefly tell us about your education background, ma'am?
I have a bachelor's degree with a minor in communications from Grambling State University, was half of my courses, and I graduated from Florida Memorial University in Miami.
What was your major? I'm sorry.
My major was English with a minor in communications.
Okay. Was Trayvon Martin right or left-handed?
Trayvon was right-handed.
Trayvon Martin had 2 tattoos on his bodies. Do you know where they were on his body?
He had praying hands on his right upper shoulder with his grandmother's and great-grandmother's name. That's the first tattoo. They were praying hands, and they had pearls going through them.
Okay. And do you know where the other tattoo was?
The other tattoo was on his left wrist. He had my name there.
Okay. Prior to your son's death, had you heard him crying or yelling prior to his death? Had you ever heard him while he was growing up and while you were raising him? Had you ever heard him crying or yelling?
Yes.
Okay. I want to play a recording for you, ma'am.
911, do you need police, fire, medical?
Maybe both. I'm not sure. There's just someone screaming outside.
Okay, what's the address that they're near?
1211 Twin Trees Lane.
Twin Trees Lane. Is this in the Twin Lake Town homes in Sanford?
Yes.
Okay, and is it a male or female?
It sounds like a male.
And you don't know why?
I don't know why. I think they're yelling help, but I don't know. Just send someone quick, please.
Okay. Does he look hurt to you?
I can't see him. I don't want to go out there. I don't know what's going on. So they're sending.
So you think he's yelling help?
Yes.
All right, what is your phone number?
There's gunshots.
You just heard gunshots?
Yes.
Ma'am, that screaming or yelling, do you recognize that?
Yes.
And who do you recognize that to be, ma'am?
Trayvon Benjamin Martin.
Your Honor, subject to the issue we discussed, she's going to be recalled. I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to hold off on your cross until we finish the direct?
I can talk to her now, and then if there's need afterwards, I'll continue that.
Okay, then you may do so.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Firstly, truly apologize for your loss.
Objection, improper, no, not a question.
Okay,
Well, I'm
you need to
sorry.
make a question.
Excuse me?
You need to ask a question.
Would you tell us the first time that you listened to that tape, when you listened to it? Where were you?
I was here in Sanford. I believe it was the mayor's office.
And that was pursuant to a request made by your lawyers to have that tape released, correct?
That's correct.
And my understanding is that that happened actually in the mayor's office, correct?
Yes.
And there were no law enforcement officers present?
They were there, but they wasn't actually in the room.
They were actually not allowed in the room, correct?
I don't know about that.
Were you present there when Chief Lee was talking to the mayor and to City Manager Bonaparte about the concern with having the tape released?
Objection is to hearsay.
I asked whether or not she was there.
And your objection?
Question.
My objection is to hearsay what somebody else said in her presence.
It will be sustained as to hearsay. Rephrase your question.
Were you there during the time that Chief of Police Lee, was having a conversation with the mayor and City Manager Bonaparte?
No.
When the tape was played for you, who played it for you?
I'm not absolutely sure. I'm just trying to remember back. I think it was the mayor.
It was not any law enforcement officer, correct?
It was not.
And who was in the room when that tape was played?
Trayvon's dad, Tracy Martin, Sybrina Fulton, Stephanie Sands, Darian Sands, Benjamin Crump, Attorney Natalie Jackson, I believe Mayor Triplett was there, and that there may have been one other person. Not absolutely sure, but I think Bonaparte was there.
When you say Bonaparte, that's Sanford City Manager Bonaparte?
Yes.
Was the tape, the first time that you heard that tape, was it played at one time for everybody who was in the room?
Yes.
Did any one of those witnesses listen to the tape individually? Or was it all at one time?
I don't know if they listened individually, but that was my first time hearing it.
Well, had anybody indicated to you in that group that they had listened to the tape before?
No.
Did Tracy Martin tell you he listened to the tape before?
No.
Had you had any conversations with him about listening to the tape before that event?
No.
Imagine that it was probably one of the worst things that you went through to listen to that tape, correct?
Absolutely.
And that if it was your son, in fact, screaming, as you've testified, that would suggest that it was Mr. Zimmerman's fault that led to his death, correct?
Correct.
And if it was not your son screaming, if it was, in fact, George Zimmerman, then you would have to accept the probability that it was Trayvon Martin who caused his own death, correct?
I don't understand your question.
Okay. If you were to listen to that tape and not hear your son's voice, that would mean that it would have been George Zimmerman's voice, correct?
And not hear my son screaming?
Correct.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes, ma'am.
I heard my son screaming.
I understand. The alternative, the only alternative, would you agree, would be that if it was not your son screaming, that it would be George Zimmerman, correct?
Objection is to speculation.
Sustained.
You certainly had to hope that that was your son screaming even before you heard it, correct?
I didn't hope for anything. I just simply listened to the tape.
Mm-hmm. And in your mind, as his mother, there was no doubt whatsoever that it was him screaming, correct?
Absolutely.
Did you have any thought in mind how you would react if you believed or didn't hear your son's voice?
I really didn't know what the tape was all about.
And everybody else in the room, when they listened to the tape, who was the first one to react?
I was.
And everybody else then reacted similarly to you, correct?
Well, they also heard the tape themselves.
Correct. And every one of them then told you that they agree with your opinion that it was Trayvon Martin's voice, correct?
They didn't tell me anything.
When you mentioned a moment ago that you didn't know what, nobody spoke to you to tell you that you would soon be listening to screams from the event that led to your son's death?
No.
Mayor Triplett never said anything like that to you?
No.
Nor did any of your other family members?
They hadn't heard the tape at that time.
But the question is whether or not anyone told you to prepare yourself for the event, for the trauma of having to listen to somebody scream moments before your son was shot.
No.
Nobody mentioned that to you.
No.
Tracy Martin never told you about that?
No.
And you just need to listen to it one time, correct?
That's it.
Un moment, Chairman. Thank you, Your Honor. We're now obviously based upon potential recall.
Yes. Any redirect?
You were asked about hope. Did you hope your son wouldn't be dead, Trayvon Martin? You were asked by defense counsel about hope. Are you still hoping that he would still be alive?
I hope he was still alive.
And I don't know how else to ask this, but I'm going to ask it. Did you enjoy listening to that recording?
Absolutely not.
Thank you. That's another question.
Okay, Ms. Fulton? Yes.
Because another issue is, ma'am, and the risk of another objection, I don't mean to put you through this any more necessary than we need to, but you certainly would hope that your son Trayvon Martin did nothing that could have led to his own death, correct?
What was your question again?
You certainly hope, as a mom, you certainly hope that your son Trayvon Martin would not have done anything that would have led to his own death, correct?
What I hope for is that this wouldn't have never happened and he would still be here.
Absolutely.
That's my hope.
Absolutely. And now dealing with the reality that he's no longer here, it is certainly your hope as a mom, hold out hope as long as you can, that Trayvon Martin was in no way responsible for his own death, correct?
I don't believe he was.
I know. And that's the hope that you continue, correct?
I don't understand what you're trying to ask me.
And again, I don't mean to put you through more than we need to. No other questions, Sean.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Fulton, you may step down. You're subject to being recalled. Just so we know, we're having an issue with the evidence locker door, and as soon as that gets resolved, you'll be more than likely recalled. Okay, thank you. State, want to call your next